the business within 5 months to like $10,000 a month in revenue, a little bit slower than I would like. Um, that's more on me and just not moving as quickly as I should. I think this program gives you everything that you need to really get to that. What I would say, kind of what you guys advertise, like the $100,000 a month mark. I think it's just really about scaling and repeating and doing the boring shit day in and day out, and then like.
Okay, so I am here with Jack. Jack, can you walk me through a little bit about yourself and what things looked like prior to partnering up with us to help you start and scale your AI agency?
Absolutely. So, my name's Jack Wilkie. A little bit about me. I have two businesses. One is, an AI med spa marketing agency. This is the one that I took on through JP and Michael's team and course and coaching program. And then before that, and still currently have, a call center business that does live transfers and appointment setting for different verticals like insurance, asset recovery, and some other campaigns that we do. I had no marketing background in terms of digital marketing before I started working with JP and Michael. I have had a sales background. Primarily did sales for new client relationships for my call center business. But no like marketing background, no real like um knowledge of how to run ads, how to build out offers and things along those lines. High ticket sales as well. The sales I did was, it's more on like a per show basis. So, I would just say like beforehand, I really had no knowledge of, kind of what I was doing when it came to like running an agency, or a digital marketing agency or AI based agency. And, so far I've been able to learn, a fair amount of info about, how to do market research properly, how to work within Go High Level and some of the CRM automation software that we have, uh, how to test different things, right? How to just work with clients and kind of manage client expectations. It's been, not just like a new, like one new skill. I feel like there's been like a fair bit of skill building and upskilling that I've done in the program. The biggest being the high ticket sales, which I would say has been from you, JP, and your training. I think you've given a really good foundation for how to learn how to sell this specific like service or services. So yeah, I've been able to take, the business within 5 months to like $10,000 a month in revenue, a little bit slower than I would like. Um, that's more on me and just not moving as quickly as I should. I think this program gives you everything that you need to really get to that. What I would say, kind of what you guys advertise, like the $100,000 a month mark. I think it's just really about scaling and repeating and doing the boring shit day in and day out. And then like really learning how to like figure out what you're good at and what you like doing and focusing in on that, which I'm at that pivot point now. Could I probably, draw this out a little longer and spread myself a little bit more thin and keep the margins higher? Yeah. But, I've been in business for 5 years. Like I know that it takes a team to build something good and special and something that, you're not pulling your hair out of your head every fucking day. I'm at that point right now and I'm pretty happy with where things are at. And, you know, I would just say to, I guess like anyone who's on the fence of working with Michael and JP, like it's very apparent from working with both of them, like on the coaching calls, that they know what they're talking about. And this is just not some other program that like they haven't been where they say they've been. These guys definitely do multi six figures a month. It's pretty clear with the way they carry themselves and the way they've treated the people in their cohort. And I have a lot of good things to say. And if anyone would ever want to reach out to me, I would certainly, be like a reference as to how they deal with their students. And yeah, that's did I cover a lot of bases there?
You did, man. Yeah, that was awesome. One thing I wanted to ask you is like, obviously you you and I are right around the same age, and you built a very successful business doing something
Yeah.
completely unrelated, right, to what you're doing now. And so I think there's probably a lot of people that I know for a fact there's a lot of people that are in that situation where they have a business and they like their business, but they think that there's a chance that it's going to get disrupted in the future with things that are going on, whether that's because of AI or not. There's just certain industries that people are very concerned about being similar to what they look like now, the landscape being what it is now, and it changing significantly. So, what kind of prompted you to want to even go in, this direction in the first place?
Yeah. I've been super interested in marketing for 3 years. Have followed the poor Mosey, Eddie Malouf type figures on, socials. And I know that for any small business, like the lifeblood of the business is more or less marketing and lead generation. And, you know, that's just the skill that like if you can develop it and you can understand like offer strategy, how to build out the right ads, how to build out the right follow-up sequence and sales sequence. Like you can come into any small business more or less and grow it. And, I can see myself years down the line, like being in, like a situation where, maybe I have a massive marketing agency, or maybe I decide that I want to start rolling up different businesses in HVAC. Maybe I pivot. But, without skills like, what I'm developing here and have already developed to some extent, that wouldn't be possible. Or it would be possible. I would just have to hire the people, and I'd prefer to have those skills on my own. So like, whether this business flops or not, I have gained like a fair amount of knowledge to the point where I would say that, the investment that I made was totally worth it. I already have made that investment back like 4x too. So, or at this point more than that. But yeah. Um I just say like I can even give an example. Like I literally just lost a $20,000 a month client overnight in the other business. So like it didn't have anything to do with AI taking over, but it just goes to show you that like, sometimes things don't always pan out the way that you think they will. The fact that I do have this going for me now is, it didn't completely shoot down the business. The business is still doing good, but it just goes to show you that like having things in the pipeline like this or different ventures that you're working on can be like a fail safe, or can be almost like, I don't want to say backup because this is the full-time thing I'm doing, but we have some things in place should this continue to happen. Like hopefully we can be at a point where, this replaces both mine and my partner's full-time income. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then obviously, you have that other business on the side and you've been focusing more so on this. How difficult would you say it was for you to be able to get to like 10K a month with having never had experience in this at all and us helping you? Right? Because I know that it's kind of like a lot of the times when it comes to something new, sometimes you want to make sure that you've got a good foundation, especially someone like you who's already been in business where you've made some mistakes, right? Where you're like, I'm not going to repeat some of these mistakes I made when it comes to scaling again. And so, what would you say? Was it difficult? How long did it take you to kind of get there, considering you never had any prior experience? And obviously, I know you mentioned, right, that you're confident if you really, really wanted to, you could take this to 100K with the knowledge you have now and our help. It just sounds like it's more so structuring the business in the proper way to allocate your time on what you're best at and getting other people to handle the rest of the stuff.
yeah. Like what was the question? Like, yeah, I was
How
listening.
long did it take you to
Oh,
ultimately start getting some traction, having never done any of this stuff before, while also having your other business on the side?
sure. Like I kind of like I took action in the program, but I still didn't take action as quick as maybe some of the other people. I'm in a little bit of a different situation where, not to use it as an excuse, but I make good money in my other business. So like the slower trajectory of this. It's not like I was like, I needed the money immediately. I was trying to get a good foundation and understanding of everything. Sometimes when you try to do that, though, you try to learn too much and you don't focus on what's like the priority or what's most important. So it took me like even like a month really to like finish the training that I needed to. And then like I got like a first test client or two. And then, I didn't really dive full into um lead like acquisition channels like digital marketing or doing the meta ads to get clients till like a month ago. I was doing cold calling before, and then I had a warm book of clients in a similar industry. I tapped into that a little bit, but I was somewhat inexperienced with the sales part of things. And, it was probably clear that the way I was treating the calls, I was a little uncertain sometimes. I'm now a lot more confident and comfortable. So if I do reach out to them in the future, which I will, and I'm putting a plan in place in the first quarter of this year to do it, I'm confident that I'll convert more of them. Just need to dial in a couple more like winning offers for specific treatment types. But yeah, I mean, it really took me like I would say 4 months to get going. And the advice that I can offer anyone, just being in business, even in my other business, like you have to be willing to like, like slog through the muck a little bit and deal with not making money and be in a position where you have some savings and like you can live off that money should things not go the way that you want them to, which they almost never do. So you have to be mentally tough, able to deal with uncertainty, um, and kind of like willing to like be, I would say with the program, like you have to be coachable. Like there's a lot of corrections that you guys or fix like quick fixes that you would give me just about sales, and Michael would just be like, "Dude, just do this, like, stop overthinking it, just go." Like, that helps you from doing the whole overthink thing, and, I think it could have taken actually a lot longer if I didn't jump in the program with you. It probably would have taken me double the amount of time because I would have had to learn, how to build out the right CRM flows. And I'm just somebody who's going to pay for convenience at this point. Like, if I can learn something, like, I'm in the pay to play mindset. I get it takes money to make money, but like every, person that I follow, like swears by that, right? Like every person that is successful that I see where I want to be, right? And that's what's important. It's like if the person that you see that you want to be like is telling you that you need to pay for like coaching, you should probably do it because there's not some like, maybe some of them have some like ulterior motive spin. It's like pay for my program. But when you see it across like a wide number of people, it's a common thing and it's something that you can kind of trust. So I would just say like, yeah, I mean, long-winded answer there, but yeah,
Yeah, 100%. And
I've tried to
would you
get
say,
stuff to work with, a
yeah,
job like
yeah, yeah, 100%. And would you say, for example, if, you were just getting started and your situation was where you had nothing but this, do you think you would have been able to scale it quicker or make a lot more progress if you were just 100% all in on this?
yeah, I mean, I think that if you do it the right way, where it's like you have to dive fully in. You have to be willing to work. You really do. You have to be willing to either work super, super efficient and just be like the most organized, dialed in person with your planning of all time, which we all know, you know, you got to prepare, right? Not plan because there's always going to be chaos and you have to expect that you're going to get thrown off that path. I think if I was more like that, maybe I could work the 6 8 hour days part or 6 hour days, part time and get it to where I did in like 3 months instead of like 5 months. Um, but I also think if somebody comes in and it all depends on your ability to learn and iterate and pivot and just move. If you come in and you just take action and you focus on sales and you find the winning offer, I think, in your industry and you don't overthink, you could probably get to 2K, 10K with the package that kind of we're selling. I'd say in 2 months, that should be like a reasonable amount of time. Maybe you take the first 2, 3 weeks to like learn what you need to in the course part of the program. But after that, like if you jump right in and you have some like sales experience, especially in high ticket, you could get there quicker. Like it really just depends. And that's a big thing. It's like, what's your learning curve? How adaptable are you? For me, sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but once I get it, I get it. So, um, yeah, I mean, I think someone could come in with, what you've given us and get to that 10K a month mark in 2 months. I think that's a fair amount of time.
Yeah, yeah, and we've definitely been able to see that a lot because obviously first you wanna have the confidence in what you're gonna be selling, right? Before you actually start selling it, because that will impact how you communicate and how you speak. But once you have that, it really just comes down to focusing on selling, right? And then dialing in that offer for the customer is what you're saying to make sure that you have a simplified process or it's scalable, repeatable, that gets them great results. But as far as getting leads is concerned and getting appointments for your business, we literally give you exactly what we run for our business and also cold calling what we do for our business. So was that an issue? Was that difficult? Or was it really just getting that sales process down, a sales process you had never run before, and then just really having the confidence around what you were actually selling?
Yeah, I think it's kind of really we've done appointment setting for our call center. So like the calling and the setting of appointments, I had some good experience with. I think where we need to reassess is our cold calling campaign because the results have fallen off a cliff there. And that's more so I think maybe like a data thing and the fact that I only have one guy calling and he's setting and calling. So could be something there. The most value that I got is just how to run a sales call. Like really it's just in breaking down, the discovery, the doubt building, desire, pitch, etc., objection handling. That is where I struggle the most. And I'm still like learning. Like I'm not you're always improving, but it's like pattern recognition things where like I've dealt with this person before, right? New experiences sometimes you're not able to identify things and I'm still getting exposure to calls, but what I would say is the ads have panned out to be pretty good overall with pretty good lead quality. Could I get a lower cost per higher a better quality lead with more dialed in offer marketing, longer funnel? Yeah, but for where I'm at right now, this has been fine. And I've made a couple tweaks to try to get more qualified people. So, overall, I would just say that like I have probably gotten the most out of like the actual closing training over the setting training.
Sure. Yeah, and that's super important, right? Because a lot of people think that if you've got a great product or a great service that you'll be able to build a business, but if you can't sell it, if you can't get somebody to number one trust you, recognize they have a problem, and then want you to solve it for them and actually pay you money in exchange to solve that problem, you don't have a business, right? So it's super, super important. What would you say has been your favorite aspect about working with us? Because you have done coaching programs before, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So obviously, coaching programs, in my experience, typically are you typically don't get to actually work with a person that you want to work with that actually, has the skill or has the credentials that you're trying to acquire, has that knowledge. You typically end up working with, like, let's be honest, a failed employee or like a failed customer or a employee that they hired that didn't actually walk the walk. They might talk the talk, but they didn't actually walk that path, right? And so, in addition to that, some other things that I've experienced is, it's you're on these big group coaching calls where you don't really get to ask questions, or you might feel awkward asking them just because it's so busy. And there's no one-to-one channel where you can really reach out and even just have private dialogue with the people about what you're specifically asking questions on, or they kind of tell you, hey, like, we have a channel for you, but like, don't abuse it. Like, do this first, but like, don't abuse it. So, what would you say has been your favorite aspect about working with us, and how has it compared to other things that you've done in the past, now having probably spent a lot of money on mentorship and coaching, since you said you're at the point where you're gonna pay to get the knowledge and information.
Yeah. I mean, it's exactly what you said, like, just actually getting to work with the guys that execute at the highest level in their company. You on the sales side, Michael on the operations side. Normally you get passed off to just an employee, but it's coming straight from the source. You guys get back to us in like a timely manner in the Slacks for like one-off questions. You guys are patient. I've never like felt like, I'm asking too much to you guys, and that's really all you can ask for, I think. Is that you guys are like present and that you're there on the calls, and I've never had an issue. And if I did, I probably would have let you know or, given you some feedback. But, I use what I can. What do I think I should have used more or I should use more in the coaching program with the group calls? I think where I'm at right now, I probably could come a little bit more prepared sometimes and, figure out things I want to work on and um just be more present myself and like what's going on in the business. But overall, like really, really strong stuff in the coaching calls, and um you just don't really get to work with the owners of these types of businesses when you do the coaching programs. And um I'd say like if anyone could get in now where it's still like this, they should. And they should, probably pay the price that the investment, whatever it is that you guys are offering, it's a good deal. So definitely take advantage of it.
Yeah. And what would you say has been I know you've mentioned a bunch of stuff as far as what's been like the most helpful as far as having the sales, having direct access, and us really just being able to work with you right away, and you not feeling like you're, overreaching or anything like that, because that's never a good feeling, especially after you've paid somebody to help you, right? I've felt that before, and it's just a terrible, terrible situation to be in. But what would you say has been, in your mind, the most impactful part about us, helping you do this? Because you mentioned if you had done this on your own, you think it probably would have taken a lot longer, right, to do it. So what would you say were like the couple things? I know you've touched on sales and some other stuff, but you had never provided services like this ever before, right? And there's just a lot that we do. I'm kind of curious to hear what you would say are some of the other things.
I mean, I think just like kind of keeping sanity with certain things going wrong. Like if you've been in business before, you know that things go wrong more than they go right usually. Um, well, depending on the business that you run, but there's always issues. And when you're new to an industry, you don't know what's up and what's down sometimes. Is this something that like, is it just me? And so like I'd say you guys is like, you know, mentors, like helps keep your head where it needs to be, which is dialed in and not like negative mindset and like not, hey, am I doing this right or wrong? Like you kind of you have clarity, right? About what's going on, and you can't put a price on that. People waste years, right? Trying to do things on their own. And, I feel like I'm moving in the right direction. And I wouldn't be where I am if you guys hadn't put the guardrails in place sometimes and just guided me to where I needed to get.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's one thing that is super important, especially whenever you're starting a new business. If you don't have direction, especially from somebody that you believe knows what to do, then you're left to come up with the direction. And there's so many different things that you can do, right? When it comes to building a business, there's just so many different routes you could try and take. And then sometimes you'll get into a place where you're pretty much in that paralysis analysis, where you end up not making any progress at all because you just don't have confidence in regards to the direction you should take and it being a legitimate path towards getting you to where you're trying to get. And I've definitely experienced that before. So it sounds like just having that direction. One thing too, what would you say, like you weren't technically experienced in some of this stuff, right, at all when you got into it. What would you say as far as, does it take a special person to try and build a business like this or do this? Because obviously you have business experience, right? When I got into this, I did not have any business experience, but it was 7 years ago at this point now when I first started my business, Gym Members Now, right? So what would you say it really takes? I know you kind of talked about it, but do you think it takes a special person or anything like that, especially if they're working with, us or even people that have already done it at a pretty high level?
I don't think it takes anybody, like, you don't need super high intelligence. It's not like that, but you need to be, again, you need to be willing to take risk. You need to be willing to not make money, deal with uncertainty. Those are more important factors for success, I think, than like your your intelligence. So I think special, it depends on it depends on how you define special. Like, I think there's tons of special people, right, that, um, exhibit the qualities that I said, and that's what makes them special and what makes people admire them. But, like, special talent, no, it doesn't take a nuclear engineer to do this or, the next best guy in AI, like, it takes just more so willpower, and I'm still not even where I wanna go completely, but it's in the right direction, and, um, it's more about you just being mentally tough than, like, how smart you are. Can you deal with a little bit of discomfort?
Sure.
So
Yeah. So really, just as long as you're willing to go through that initial learning curve, we're going to be able to help them get through it as long as they show up and put the work in, right? Because one thing I always say whenever I speak with people is like, this is not a get rich quick,
no.
scheme because there's so much weird stuff on the internet where people make such ridiculous, content about such things that are so full of shit, right? I gotta let them know this is a lot of hard work, but if you're willing to put the work in, right, you don't have to be smart. You just need to be able to be willing to be uncomfortable momentarily, because whenever it comes to learning something new, it's never comfortable, right? It's always a little bit uncomfortable. So, I would completely agree with you on that. Last thing I want to ask is, if you had somebody come to you and say, "Hey, Jack, I saw this video of you talking with JP about your experience, working with him to grow this agency. I spoke with him. I've talked with a couple other people, or I really want to build this business, but I'm just not sure if JP's the right fit, or I'm a little bit skeptical because I've done programs in the past and had awful experiences where people told me it was going to be one way and it ended up being a completely different way." What would you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that, stop being a bitch and just I'm just kidding. Um No, I would just say you get a lot of, like, bang for your buck in the program. You have someone who's, just literally still executing, like, at a very high level, and on top of his sales game, right? Like, have other people in sales on the team, but, you have one of the owners who is still closing these deals and working in and day out, actually in the trenches. You don't get that a lot. And then he's actually helping you too. He's doing it for his own AI service business, and he's also doing it for his cohort of people. So that's invaluable. And then you have, Michael, who's the same thing, right? More or less, really like operating in the background, making sure that the operations are working and that people are doing, I think, what they're supposed to be doing. Really managing, I don't know the full extent of the business, but managing the people, managing the processes, SOPs, etc. Um, you don't get that a lot. So, uh, I would just say, like, you're probably not going to find a better AI, like, automation agency program out there than this one. I looked at a few others, and, um, I had the most confidence in it when, JP himself was quick to jump on a call through, like, an Instagram DM with me that I reached out to him on. It just kind of goes to show, like, the initiative that he took. And, um, yeah, I mean, I would just say with my experience, I mean, I looked at like 3 or 4 other programs, and this far and away felt I was the most confident in them, and I'm happy I made the decision to jump in.